like I've just evolved so much and everything's changing so rapidly. Like you couldn't be watching this if you're not growing too, because we've come from like early videos, I was like still in victim mentality a lot, and it was all about problems. It was all about what's going on with me, like the challenges that I'm facing. And now I've fully evolved so much, like again and again and again. And where we're at now is like, I just feel like I'm constantly proactive, optimistic and positive, and I'm looking at like what I want to do, what I want to create, and I'm imagining things and I'm getting excited. And it's just like, it's a totally different kind of content, really. And I've noticed like the Instagram especially, like losing more followers than we're gaining. Still gaining heaps of new followers, but losing a lot of the old followers who just wanted it to keep being about like, you know, problems and like making things happen and getting through the hard challenges and all of that stuff. And like, I don't know, I'm just evolving, and like I'm sure there'll still be some of that kind of content where I'll be hitting a challenge. Like this is still a challenge for me, right? Like I'm still in a moment where I'm like, I'm feeling apprehension, I'm feeling anxiety. Is this going to work out? But it's like we're leveling up, and we're at these higher levels of like where the problems, like they're just like they're, as Mark Manson would say, the guy who wrote The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. He says like, we all got to have problems, so like just choose problems that are worth having, kind of thing. Like, and solve your problems. You're always going to have higher level problems and better problems. I think he calls them higher quality problems or something like that. Doesn't matter. The point is, like, if we're evolving, we're going to fall out of alignment with the people in our communities and our friendship circles and even with our family and that, and we're not going to be on the same wavelength anymore. And that's been something that I've been a little bit conscious of. I'm not reacting to it, but I'm aware that like as I'm evolving, I'm losing people, and I'm losing people that I really care about too, if I'm honest. Like there's some people that I've spent years and years of like a lot of connection with, and like I'm really emotionally invested in their stories, but I just feel us falling out of alignment. And it's like, I know the feeling from the other perspective is like I'm turning my back on people, but like it's like almost the most loving thing you can do at times is actually let people go through their shit. And as hard as that is to say, and as hard as it is to do, and as hard as it is to watch people sort of fall apart, like they needed to fall apart and you've just been holding them together, or like not just you, but like the community around this person has been holding them together and like supporting them and like not letting them fall apart. And like, fuck man, sometimes you got to fall apart. Like I know I've had to fall apart multiple times to become who I am right now. And it was actually in those times where there was nobody to turn to that I had the greatest like leaps in my growth. So you can also initiate that yourself. Like you don't have to wait for everybody to not be available. You don't have to wait for that breakdown where nobody has answers. Like you can choose to, you know, go into your own stuff and fall apart on your own time, like intentionally. So that's way better than like waiting until like everything's falling apart and you're desperately looking for somebody to turn to and there's nobody there. Like let's choose to go into our shit and feel our shit and fall apart. Like it's the way to go. That's from like dozens of times having like life meltdowns, like where just like nothing feels like it's ever going to be okay again. Like it's always on the other side of those that I feel the most free and I feel the most evolved and I have the most insights. It's like so counterintuitive. We're avoiding all of that shit, but it's the stuff where all of our answers are. So yeah, it's the same thing too. Like with all this stuff, even though I say like developing this brand and this business and all the things that are going on, like it's all the things that terrify me and all the things that make me feel like I'm at breaking point and I'm like, oh, can I do this? Like that's all the stuff that I need to go full speed ahead with. So that's what I'm doing. Like, and like the more that I do that, the faster things happen. And it's like, what's the picture? I don't know. when you move really slowly through pain, it hurts more. And when you just like sort of go fucking full steam ahead, it's almost like you don't feel the pain. You're definitely aware of it, but it's like it's over and done so quickly. I don't know, I think the slower you move through pain and the slower you move through your shit, the more loud your internal alarm system gets. It's like, deal with this, deal with this, deal with this. But if you just deal with it, if you just go fucking boom and you just rip the Band-Aid off, it's almost like you get to that part where you feel the relief quicker and you don't feel that build up of like insanity and pain. So yeah, I'm just learning to constantly dive into the thing that's like uncomfortable or scary or whatever. And as I'm doing that, I'm realizing that you can do that. I'm realizing it's like oh, I could have been doing this the whole time. Like I could have just like faced every single thing, like full throttle every single time, and I would have got through it all so much quicker. And it constantly reaffirms itself, this lesson. Like the faster I deal with my shit, the less shit I have to deal with. Like, and it doesn't build up as well. Like one of the things that has been hard when I look back in hindsight is when I haven't dealt with shit and then another problem's come up behind it and another problem and another problem and another problem. And you end up with like this lineup, like these problems just waiting in line, and you're like the angry fucking dude at the front desk, like, next problem, please. And it comes up and you're like, fuck, really? This is what you've come to me with? Like you're looking at your problems like that. And yeah, it's just like a never ending line, and you're just waiting to clock off at the end of the day so you can go home and watch Netflix. Like, oh man, I give it to Netflix, don't I? There's nothing wrong with Netflix. I watch Netflix still. You got to have your wind down time as well. And that's another thing that I guess I'm learning. One more little insight is like, I rest a lot now. Like if I'm out of energy, I just lay down or I sit down. Yesterday afternoon, I was just like laying in that like winter sun, and it was really cool, but the sun was just warm enough to keep me warm in the cool day. And it's like this euphoric high that I was feeling, like the best feeling in the world. And I just remember thinking like, this is so simple. This is like everything that I need right now. And I just recharged in the sun. And then like I went and I smashed out like all this extra stuff, like just heaps of administrative, like the most boring things, the things that I hate to do, like just like lots of data entry and like getting pieces of content where they need to be and organizing files, all that stuff that I never want to do. I spent like 4 or 5 hours doing all of that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't have done that if I didn't just lay there in the sun and feel really good for a minute. It was probably like 15 minutes. I dozed off. That's how like euphoric it was. I was like napping in the afternoon sun, and then I was just off again. And it was like I got a whole nother day worth of stuff done. And it was incredible. So like resting more. Like this is just like a series of random insights at this point. But yeah, I'm actually here to meet people, and they'll be arriving shortly. So if you got anything out of this video, click the like button for me, leave your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the links in my description box, because yeah, that's where I update, all the things that are available and emerging.